Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new Patience is a Virtue seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which every turn, every card in our hand gets transformed into a random card that costs one more provision. That makes this event chaotic, but if we have a way to manage the chaos, then we can have lots of success. So let's go take a look at the deck. So today we'll be playing a Nilfgaard Enslave 8 deck that is really good in this event because every card in our deck is going to get transformed when it's sitting in our hand, which means most of the cards don't really matter. So even if we have a whole bunch of weak tactics, it powers up our leader ability and these are going to transform into other cards anyways. We have done a deck similar to this in the past. This time, however, the key difference is that we have added Dahy to our deck, and because we have 20 tactics in our starting deck, he can move up to a 22 power card on your opponent's side of the board back into their hand, and you'll draw a card in the process. So basically, use him to put one of your opponent's highly boosted cards back into their hand. They're going to lose all those boosts in the process. Other than that, the other big card that we have is Stefan, who, because we have 20 tactics in our starting deck, has 12 damage coming from 6 aces up his sleeve. So you play him, you get boatloads of damage. That means that we want to make sure we never have either of these cards in our starting hand, otherwise they'll transform into something else and we won't get the chance to play them. That's why we're using the Cursed Scroll stratagem. That way we can put that card in our hand and play it on the same turn before it transforms. So at least on Blue Coin, we can guarantee that we can play one of those cards, but otherwise we should place a high emphasis on getting tutors to play one of those guys from our deck. We also have Roach and Best Boy, who should get thinned out from our deck to help us win round 1. Which hopefully helps us save our leader ability for round 2 or round 3, because this gives us amazing value at Enslave 8. But since we can only use it once, need to be a little bit careful not to use it too early, otherwise you could get stuck in round 2 or round 3, relying entirely on whatever random cards you get, so we'd like to avoid taking that risk if we can. So there's a look at the deck, now let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Syndicate here, and we'll go first. Alright, so the most important thing in this deck is that we don't have either of these guys in our starting hand because we want to try to tutor them out later on. So let's mulligan them now, and we should be good. We do also have Best Boy and Roach, who should come out to help us win this round, so those are the other cards we'd want to keep in our deck as well, but obviously we didn't see those. For what it's worth, we could Predatory Dive because they did have a Musicians, but don't think that's really necessary here. I think the best option for us is probably to go Trained Hawk, because Harmony can be pretty solid. Alright, Prophet Lebiota. It's not bad. It's not bad. Ho, 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 ho. Okay, now Roderick. Well, that is a tutor. We do not yet have either Best Boy or Roach out from our deck, so it is not guaranteed. Oh, not guaranteed that we'll see both these guys. And to tell you the truth, I mean, Dahy, what, would we put the Musicians back in their hand? I guess. That still feels like a bit of a waste, because he has so much more potential than that. And then Stefan does not really have many things to damage here. So, I mean, yeah, he is, I believe it's 12 damage total. I guess it's not that far away, but again, we can't guarantee that we're going to see him specifically. So I think for that reason, we actually need to pass up this opportunity, which does pain me to say. But I think we do this instead. Now we will get Roach out, and of course we have the Curse Scroll, which we can use later on to guarantee that we get at least one of those guys, but we'll wait until it's a little bit better time to do that. Philippe. Now, I did see we had one option on the previous turn to get a Purification unit, right? Which, obviously, in hindsight, if we'd known they were about to play Philippe, would have been relevant, but Manticore. No, not relevant, even if they were to go after it with Philippe. Operator. Doesn't work. Werecat. Actually not that bad. Apiarian Phantom with the Veil. Also not bad. This could also be a much better occasion to break out Stefan, because then we could destroy Philippe, and we have to do this in round 1, otherwise we're going to lose the opportunity to guarantee the tutoring with Curse Scroll. So I think we probably do go that route now. Yeah, let's do it. We'll get Stefan, we'll get rid of, or we'll put, maybe you back. Sure. Use Stefan. And most importantly, we're just getting rid of Philippe here. So I do not like them being able to play him so early. Now, of course, there's a chance they would have gotten some form or that we would have gotten some other form of control to shut him down. Could have maybe used Enslave, but I want to be protective of Enslave, because although it's really powerful when we have Enslave 8, we can only use it once. So that is probably going to be our round 3 win condition, whereas Stefan is more so our round 1 win condition. And Jacques is not bad. We did not quite have enough damage to destroy Prophet Lebiota, which I was not thrilled about. We could destroy him now. That's not a terrible play. Obviously, Defender could be decent, although we don't have anything that we really need to protect at this stage. So, yeah, I think we actually do this. Okay. Damage by 5. Alright, sure. As is oftentimes the case in this event, every time you are considering playing a card and choose not to, your opponent immediately plays something on your next turn that makes you second-guess your choice. But again, we obviously can't predict the future. Here's more Purification, so again, maybe it wouldn't have been a huge deal to have left Philippe unanswered. That's 11 points because Stefan played a whole bunch of cards for us, so that's not bad. I am also eyeing this Resilience, of course. Eater is a good engine if we thought this round was going to go longer, so basically Point Slam, Engine, Carryover, all of which are solid. Just a matter of how long we think this round is going to go, more or less. And I'm leaning toward Eater, to be honest with you. I know that row's a little bit more crowded, and we will potentially spawn more things in this row, but nah, we'll see what they go for here. Beauclair? Alright, we have an 8, so that's a decent play for them. It does have Resilience, so it's a little unfortunate. Vivaldi Bank could be another way for us to tutor some things out, but we have a lot of other junk in our deck, so not really sure that's worth fishing through to try to get the one card we would want with Dahy. So I think, out of curiosity, we could steal Philippe right now, which is actually a little bit tempting, which we could use to... You have 1 status. You also have a status already. So, yeah. If the round goes long enough, that could work. You're 11 provisions, whereas you're 10, so this will get pretty high up there. So we aren't about to play it, but... we'll make it work. We'll make it work. We do not have any artifacts in our starting deck. For what it's worth, Sahil does work. We just don't have anything to play from our hand because we have all golds at this stage. Dandelion we could use and then just see if we, once again, have the 1 in 21 chance of getting Dahy. It's very unlikely, and even at this stage, we might not even want to use him. Full test. Is there anything, any case to be made for using him here? Oberon. There's some risk that we get the Wild Hunt card that requires that we have Devotion, and we don't have Devotion, so that's not a good idea. So, I mean, I think it probably is Dandelion, to be honest with you. Okay. And let's go full test. Sure. He's an engine. We'll take it. We'll do this. And we'll do that. Okay, Yennefer is going to destroy this drone. Sure. Now we can start poisoning you, and we got another Oberon. Zoltan is really good. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any armor, so he's not going to be an engine for us, but at this stage, you know, that wouldn't be a huge factor anyway. So I think we act on the assumption we're going to remove you with Philippe. I mean, yes, we could potentially lock Yennefer Illusionist at some point, but I think that's going to be too slow for that to be a big factor. So let's do this. We'll hit... and we could hit you and maybe destroy you later on. I think we still do this, because I assume that's going to prevent us... if we hit you, it's going to prevent us from getting a Rowdy Dwarf. Do that. Do this. Alright, no pass, which is probably good for us, because otherwise this timing was going to get a little bit awkward with, yeah, Sunset Wanderer, sure, would be a tiny little bonus, but the ship Ballisto is not going to be a huge deal for us. So, we'll win round 1. Okay, and we did draw into Dahy, so we do not want that, because otherwise he'll transform before we get the chance to play him. So, definitely mulligan him out. And then we had our biggest card turn into Gettyneath, which, by the time we get the chance to play it, is going to end up flipping back around to a low provision cost card, because we're going to end up dry passing in round 2 in all likelihood, since we did play one more card than our opponent to win round 1. So, yeah, I guess we'll probably mulligan that as well. That is one, I guess you could call it, weakness of this deck, is that since we have a bunch of low provision cost cards in a short round 3, if we're top decking a bunch of 4 provision cost cards that transform into 5, eventually 6 provision cost cards, we aren't going to have a lot of firepower. In this case, since we are going to dry pass in round 2, that'll give us a little bit more time for these cards to increase provisions, hopefully get stronger by the time we're actually playing them in round 3. And although they had some resilience with Beauclair, it doesn't directly contribute points by itself, so they do still need to play a card here. So despite them having that carryover of sorts, they still need to play a card, so we'll still be uneven cards in round 3. Alright, and this is what I mean, because we have a few 4 provision cost cards here, and that's not bad, because as long as we wait a little bit before we play these guys, they'll have some time to increase in power by turning into some higher provision cost stuff. Whereas the other stuff that we had in round 2 has already had a little bit of time to increase the provisions, and therefore, by the time we're playing those, they should be half decent. So, I think we probably stick with exactly what we have here. Alright, they'll go with Oberon. Okay, Taskmaster is, I mean, it's a 4-point body, it's not doing much else. Alright, we could also go the Wild Hunt route. I'm not really sure we're going to have enough support for Naglfar's crew to be worthwhile. I'm assuming, did not end up randomly getting nature cards in our deck. No. Okay. So, I mean, Eater is a strong engine. And so to play that at the beginning of the round, I think that is probably worth doing. Otherwise, you take Defender. We don't have anything we need to defend just yet, but you could act on the assumption that that'll happen at some point. Alright, Water Proclon, Double Harmony, and that's actually pretty solid. It's fairly easy to activate those, so, I mean, we could destroy one of them if we really wanted to. We could steal one of them if we really wanted to. We, once again, see Oberon. They also did not actually take damage, so I was expecting for Jenga to work here, but he does not. So, we potentially could Last Wish and see if we happen to get Dahy. That's extremely unlikely, but at some point we should see if we can make that happen. Let's go for the destruction there. It was an engine. 5 points of damage is not huge, but it was gonna be at least 1 point, or close to 1 point per turn. Okay. So, we do still have our leader ability. We could steal Casimir if we really wanted to. That's going to be pretty difficult for us to take advantage of as a non-Syndicate deck, whereas they are Syndicate, so he is valuable to them. I think the big value is mostly just to deny them the opportunity to use him. Could use a Sire to put Stefan back into our deck. Again, what are the chances we'll actually get the chance to play him? That's the question. Certainly not guaranteed. But I think, you know what? We'll do this. We'll give it a shot. Worth at least increasing the likelihood wherever he went. And then, sure, we'll steal him. Not sure if we're going to get a better opportunity to steal something. It's a 16-point swing, so we're getting the full value out of Enslave. It's just a matter of, it's non-stop Oberons. They've played 2. We've, at this point, seen at least 2 in our hand, but chose not to play them. But yeah, so we probably won't be able to take advantage of his passive ability. It's mostly just the pure pointage that matters here. Oh, yeah, getting a random Stefan does work. Also, Fukusia, what is his provision cost? Okay, wouldn't have worked for him anyway, although, is there anything else that's worth considering with Fukusia here? Because that is the most expensive card we have in hand, and therefore the card that is going to flip over to 4 provision 1 and get bricked if we don't use it here. I think that's still worth taking that risk because Stefan is too good. Too good not to use here, I think. Because this is a whole bunch of damage. So let's get rid of their primary engine. And they will forfeit. Because they know just how strong Stefan is. Alright, so going up against monsters here. And they'll go first. Alright, so we have a few cards that we want to keep in our deck, not in our hand. Like Dahy, because otherwise he'll transform into a random card, so definitely want to get rid of him. Roach, we would like to get rid of. There's, unfortunately, the chance we might draw into Stefan, which would be... the worst possible outcome, which I have jinxed. And there was, what, a 1 in 22 chance of that happening, which is less than 5%. So, yeah, you know. You know. Apparently, it's just going to be like that. Because Stefan is definitely more important than Roach is. Granted, it's a little bit harder to get tutors when we're on red coin and we don't have our stratagem, but that probably still remains the case. Alright, they'll go Kersarin. Probably with, oh, okay, not the Witcher I expected them to take. Alright, so, on our end, we have Phil of Andrel. That is what Stefan turned into. So he's our highest provision cost card. He's not great without setup, and especially not when we don't yet have any other units on the board. Assimilate is really good, so we're probably going to go Mage Torturer here. There is something to be said for Marlene, who potentially could get Resilience if we get some Purification later on. That's obviously not guaranteed, but I think we take our chances on you. And sure, we'll do that. Alright, they're going Iris. Which, given how they just used their stratagem, presumably was the card that they just got out from their deck. Which, I mean, it has a little bit of long-term value, but only if you can summon cards out from your deck before they get transformed, which seems unlikely, so, I don't know, that seems a bit questionable. We could steal her, but, again, I don't think this is that valuable of a card, so I'm a little confused as to why they chose to do that. Anna Strenger might be the best option here. 1 point per turn helps us boost up the Mage Torture, hopefully get it out of removal range more quickly. Otherwise, we could deal some damage. Henselt is our highest provision cost card here. Unfortunately, we have basically no way for him to work, which means that he is going to turn into likely a scenario on our next turn, and that's unlikely to work very well for us. So he might turn into a brick. Vi is potentially slightly better. Alright, Summoning Circle is, coincidentally, a way. One of the few ways to get a little bit of value from Iris. Granted, Iris is not in their graveyard yet, so I guess we should not destroy her just yet. So the question now is basically, do you play Vi just to avoid this rolling back around into a 4 provision cost card, which is presumably pretty weak, or do you settle for that and just not play whatever this card turns into in this round, or it's still early enough that it could eventually turn to something half decent? Our other alternatives are not great, to be honest with you. It might even be Cadaverin on Iris, which is the best option for us, because Asire has nothing to do at the moment. So, well, you know what? Maybe it is Vi, then. Maybe it is Vi. If we don't have any better options, then why not do some provision cost management in that way? Alright, it's Siege. We did row stack in the range row, so we'll be able to get some damage here. Oh, okay. Apparently they had a Verdanian Secret Service somehow in their starting deck, which is a little bit confusing. Also, they coincidentally hit Anna Strenger, which, of course, of all the potential targets, was the best one for them to hit. I think we are probably looking to go Donamir here, just to protect Mage Torturer and Anna Strenger, who is still an engine for us. So these are going to be some cards they might want to go after. Especially as this gets even bigger. It's Regis. Oh, it's very bold. It's very bold. Especially when we had a fairly sizable lead until they played that, and they've played one more card than we have, so I think we might be able to punish them for that. We have potentially another Johnamir here, which is not terrible from a point slam standpoint, and obviously, I mean, a second defender is kind of overkill. The Dow is actually worth a little bit more. Don't have anything for Hjalmar to do. Triss is a trap, because whatever we get with her, we're going to have transform, and so we'll lose it. We also can steal a card with Enslave, so that is another way in which we could potentially sabotage their deck after they used Regis. Granted, didn't this actually get recently buffed? Yeah, now it only banishes the top 3 cards in the deck, so... Alright, it's not like it's an automatic win if we win this round. Okay, Beauclair does give them big points. The order ability is pretty much useless, at least while we still have Donamir. Boltest is an engine. It's a little bit late in the round to be playing him, but putting him next to Enna Strenger, maybe eventually getting her inspired so that she's boosting on both sides could be nice. And it also means that you're going to be the first bronze unit boosted every turn, and therefore we will create a few extra copies of this in our deck, which is maybe not a terrible thing, unlikely to be a huge factor, but it is the best option for us here, unless we were to get a little crazy with Camby, which I don't really think is something we're trying to do just yet. Alright, they're going with Vi. But I think they are in a lot of trouble now, because looky what we have here. Stefan, with an Assimilate card on the board, no less, means this is about to be worth a bazillion points. So, sure, I think we can put him in the melee row. So, what do we want to get rid of? I mean, you are an engine. The damage is going to be slightly overkill, I suppose, but we'll still take that. Then, I mean, there's a chance we get Toll removal, so maybe we'll leave Regis here for the time being, and instead, we have, what, 2 more of these, so we don't really want to destroy you either. Guess we'll destroy that. So now they could potentially be in a whole lot of trouble. We have a 10-point lead on even, and they have Regis Bloodlust on the board. They're going all in. It's Renfrey. It looks like they actually, somehow, some way, randomly got a Renfrey when they were actually a Renfrey deck. And I know you might be saying, well, Lids, you just got lucky with that Stefan, but don't forget, we lost our Stefan at the beginning of this match when it was 1 out of 22 odds or something like that. So, it's not like we got crazy lucky. That was extremely unlucky at that point. What is this? Boost unit by 2, increase value by base power? Okay, well, you know, I would love something like, I don't know, say, a Geralt right about now. What provision costs are we on now? Not a provision cost that is going to give us a Geralt, it doesn't seem. So this is still, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 points per turn just from the act of playing something alone. And you're potentially 10 points. I mean, Temple, it's not a great time to be playing this so late in the round. Would have been a fantastic card. You know what? I think we might still be able to make this pan out for us. I think we can. Let's choose, I guess you. You, although that probably wasn't the best option. And you, just because you're most likely to actually come out from our deck. Okay, so now the plan is that, assuming they pass here, which they probably will, we're going to use this to draw into Dahy, which can draw a 22 power card, so we can put that back into their hand, which should be worth a lot for us. I mean, or we could just save this for a later round if we think we're okay with letting them win this round. Demavind is not bad, of course. Oh, and it's only... Wait. Okay, well, hold on. Hold on. Our luck is turning around after all. These are both fantastic cards, of course. I was about to use this to get Dahy, but maybe we don't need that if we can just use O'Neill to get him directly. And so, yeah, I think that's going to be the card we want to put back into their hand, because this is unfortunately too big. If they hadn't boosted it, it would have been possible. But we do this. We put... Yes, you're the best option. Put you back into the hand, and that means that Although we are still behind by a slight bit, it's pretty darn close, especially once you factor in the value we're getting from our engines. And I know you're probably thinking, well, Lids, why didn't you click on this order? Didn't want to do it, because if we do that, then whatever card we draw into is going to get transformed before we get the chance to play it. That's why Oniro was key. We just didn't have to use this. So we're probably going to end up saving this for round 3, or round 2, rather, if we can, or if that's even relevant. Well, unless we were to Vincent, if we could somehow get a status on you, which we might be able to, we can do. Potentially with Dazbog Runestone, guaranteed with Endless Voyage, assuming that the boat lives for at least 1 turn, right? And we might not even need to take this last turn, because with our engine value, we have now passed them. They are close to getting this summoning circle going off, but I think depending on if they put something next to it, I mean, who knows what it was, but it was a pretty high provision cost card. All right, that's just a misplay, I think, because they absolutely could have put something there, right? Unless they're trying to make that happen in round 2 for some very sneaky carryover. Oh, and I didn't even see that they have the... We're going to get extra value from that? Okay. That's actually kind of significant. I hate Kingslayer with a burning passion, and it's not useful in this context. Do we use Temple here? I think we do. I did it in the wrong one. Wait, no, this is still fine. This is still fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Everything is fine. You do this. It has a status. Then you do this. This was the plan all along. Just for a second there, I thought we got the order wrong. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Okay, so at this stage, do we have any big cards remaining in our deck? Not really, because we used them all to win round 1, so that's kind of scary. I think we are not looking to play here. We're just going to force them to go a card down, and they need to play something next to this to get the summoning circle to activate anyway, right? So it's not like that's going to give them some super sneaky carryover that's relevant if we are to dry pass. So I think we get rid of you, we get rid of you. And by dry passing, that means that we are going to give ourselves a little more time to power up these cards, because that is one of the biggest weaknesses of this deck, is that when we are drawing into low provision cost cards, because we have a whole lot of them, when we're doing that in a short round, then they don't have a lot of time to gain power. Bold strategy, Cotton. Clearly, they thought that that resilience on the summoning circle was going to work, but as we were saying before, it did not. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and they'll go first. Alright, so we have a few cards that we want to make sure stay in our deck, and fortunately we do not have any of them here in our hand, so that's fine as long as we still have Best Boy, Roach, Dahy, and Stefan hanging out in our deck, then we're fine. Now we're on red coin here, which does make it a little bit tougher because we can't use our stratagem to guarantee that we get one of those cards. Granted, we could Troll Porter, but no, that actually would be counterproductive, because if we did use this to draw into one of those big cards, it would transform before we got the chance to actually play it. Alright, it's Vigo, which with Assimilate is very strong, and they really should have used their stratagem on him, because otherwise I am extremely tempted to... we have multiple ways we can destroy you. In fact, I think Crown Splitter Thug might be the most efficient, because you can't get a bounty now that you have that Veil. This is damage enough to remove you, but doesn't put any additional points on the board, and this is also an engine. I'm not really sure how likely we are to be able to boost it, but we'll see. And then what we really want is to see if we can get some tutors to get out one of our big cards. Alright, Saskia, now that is a big card. We also happen to have a few ways, actually, we could potentially get Resilience, either with Marlene if we happen to get Purification later on, or we could just go straight into Wagon on Crown Splitter Thug, and that would do it. It's early enough in the round that it would be fairly easy for them to remove the armor, especially when they have light longship ready to go, so I don't really think that makes a lot of sense, and for that reason, I think we probably do try to set up Marlene. That'll also get out Best Boy, or rather, Roach, and Best Boy. All right, Vandergrift, speaking of resilience. All right, so they now have it. What I would give to have already had Serpent Trap on the board when they did that, that would have been great. Unfortunately, it's a little too late here. We could potentially still use it, and it could backfire on them quite a bit if they were to play another special, but we obviously can't guarantee that. Otherwise, Stannis and Herald might be the best. Maybe we do take our chances. The downside of this is if they don't play any special cards, then that means we're going to get stuck having to destroy that Rowdy Dwarf, which is not a very high value play. So, yeah, you know what? We'll play it a little bit safe here. We'll do that. All right, Lydia. Poison? They're going to put this on Marlinade? I mean, that just gives us more reason to try to purify Marlinade. Oh, obviously. I don't think we yet have a way to make that happen, but the point stands that that is a fairly high priority if we do ever find a way to make it happen. Otherwise, I mean, Vigo is probably the answer here. Unfortunately, it's a little bit later on in the round, so don't have a ton of time to power up him with that Assimilate, but probably still at least worth giving it a shot. Let's see what we can get here. Well, I mean, we could power him up. We could also get the Death Blow on the Longship and the Rowdy Dwarf, but don't really need that. Is that worth doing? Hit Saskia in the process? Or would we rather go with the Initiate? I mean, that's pretty unlikely to work out for us. So, or just pure boost. We'll do this, sure. Okay, Tin Boy, we did row sack a bit, so that is reasonably effective. Okay. Then, other than that, Lydia is probably the best. In fact, we do have an Assimilate card still on the board here, so that's probably worth doing. We could get some resilience with Flotsam, so that's not a terrible option, but I am just not sure that that order is going to be of much value in future rounds anyway, so not really sure it's worth putting much time into making that happen. So let's see what we can do here. What do they have in their graveyard? Is there anything worth creating? Maybe? Yeah, actually, I think it is worth doing this, because that gives us one extra Assimilate proc. Do we have anything to get out from our graveyard? Yes, we do. We have someone to put that next to? Yes, we do. If we're fast enough. This is going way too slowly. So just every single click is going extremely slow. Okay, well, thanks, Gwent. You know, when I input 5 clicks and none of them register, turns out that it's kind of hard to do what I want to do. Okay, so Geralt doesn't really... Well, he'll destroy Vigo unless we do something about it. Morkvarg would be the best choice here. I mean, obviously, like, we're probably going to lose the round because Gwent just decided to stop working for a few seconds there, which kind of stinks. Because that might, by extension, mean that we also lose the match. But Blue Dream could use to create a Vigo, and that's... Yeah, he's low enough provision that that does work, and it's a bit of a synergy between the two Vigos. We could also... Really don't want to use a leader ability here, because we only have one charge of it, of course, and they have the resilience, which means we don't love having to go cards down here, which we might still have to do to win this round, but we'll see. Okay, now we're going to do what I meant to do previously, which is that, although, tell you the truth, we should have done it on... Lids! You're not going to get away with that one. You're not going to get away with that one. That was the world's most obvious Geralt play. Erland is pretty effective. We do have an old Spear Tip, which can bail us out here, to a certain extent at least. But I've made many mistakes. Alright, Kelly. Do we have more units than you? No. Well, we do have Gezros here, which is also pretty incredible. I think we want to go the boosting route by playing him in the melee row. Otherwise, we will reduce the number of units that they have, and Kelly will start to become a factor. Still not entirely sure. Kelly's a big deal. That could still mess us up a bit here. So I'm going to try, but the math has suddenly become a lot more complicated. It's double Kelly? What the heck? Okay, well, apparently we have the same number of units now. That might be about to change if we were to use Bacala, of course. This does have resilience, so I guess there's something to be said for that. And it is an order that actually could be of some value to us going forward. I guess we will still use it. And then we'll do this to try to, well, see, the things we don't necessarily want these guys to be at the top of our deck, because then we run the risk of actually drawing into them, which we don't want to have happen. So I think we actually just make it something entirely different. And we will infuse you. Sure. So now, they definitely have fewer units than we do. Masquerade Ball might seem great on paper, but in practice, we have no way to trigger this at this late stage in the round, of course. Oh, they have more resilience, naturally, which they will be able to guarantee they get with Roderick, despite it only being a 2-card option. If we were to put Masquerade Ball in that... Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So yes, we can fit Masquerade Ball range row. If we were to do that, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in that row, which means we would get big enough, right? And we could use Bacala if we absolutely needed to, because it looks like there's not going to be a lot happening in the next round. We should be able to pass here. And got away with some mistakes, for sure, in round 1. So now, we both had some resilience carrying over into round 2 here. They have some units on the board, we do not. So we could try to push and get some benefit from Bacala. I still think that this 14 points is more valuable, though, so that's probably not worth doing. It means that they also do not need to play here. If we were to dry pass, because they already have points on the board, which means we'll be on even cards in round 3, so in this circumstance, that's still okay. But we also could have stolen Siri in the previous round, which would have actually been kind of interesting. Alright, so obviously they'll win round 2. Okay, and the bigger issue is that the cards we're drawing into are, for the most part, going to be 4 provisions, which means we're not going to have a lot of time to get those powered up before we actually need to play them. Stefan we do not want to see, though, because that is a card that needs to stay in our deck so that it does not transform. And we're going to hopefully find a way to get a tutor for him, but that is not a given, because, as we were just saying, with relatively low provision cost cards, we aren't going to have a lot of options with higher provision cost stuff to tutor him out. Alright, Herald. Did they have a warrior to get back out? No, they don't. Alright, so we could Cadaver in him. I think we want to try to save some of these slightly higher provision cost cards, see if we can get a tutor. Like, if this turns into a Royal Decree, that'd be amazing. But I think Viper Witcher Mentor might make the most sense in that case. We could steal Herald. That's not a super high priority right now. There's a chance they have some very high provision cost cards in their deck. So later on in the round with that Adrenaline 2 active, this card is really good, but more of a gamble on this occasion. 6 points obviously could have been better. We'll have to live with it. Alright, now they're milling. Oh, I mean, they might actually manage... Yep, they did manage to mill one of our good cards. So they had 15 cards in our deck. They saw 3 of them, and they, of course, managed to find one of the 2 cards that was actually good. Xavier and Sheldon are potentially our highest point plays here. I guess Flotsam. That is a 9, which is... And these guys may be turning into Royal Decree, and our next turn is our best bet for getting a way to get Stefan, who still is hanging out in our deck, still gives us a chance to get something big. Let's try this. I mean, they did just use mill. I'm not happy that I just played Reaver Hunters, but they did just play mill. Okay, Axel melee row is quite good. That's a solid point slam. Obviously, we'll want to do this. And this. And then at this stage, Gerd turning into Tutor might be one of our best bets. These award Ludovicus. Protoflutter, Ruhin. Ruhin is definitely not very useful for us right now. Protoflutter, I mean, I guess we'll use mostly just for the bleed. And it can set itself up to a certain extent. We should not bleed the tallest unit because we might end up stealing that with our leader ability. So let's go for you instead. It's still half decent. Oh, also, the Reavers are going to hit the tallest unit every turn anyway. So Gerhard is what we're stealing, even if they use the order right now, which is what they should probably do. Alright, what are they boosting? Hopefully something big enough to be Geraltable, although I think they're going to just barely avoid it. Yeah. Although with leader ability, we should be able to hit Patricide, and that means they're just handing us points. Trying to clog our melee row. Obviously, we are not really a dedicated Reaver deck. This was merely a coincidence that we happened to get some here. Alright, and the rest of our hand is pretty terrible, so we're definitely playing Geralt. And I think we should steal that Crow, because otherwise it's going to get hit by the Reaver Hunters, and this might be the highest power card we end up stealing, since it's exactly 8. Obviously, it doesn't have any abilities, so in that sense, it's a little bit subpar. And we no longer have the threat of Enslave stealing, which to a certain extent might have been forcing them to play a certain way. For example, they had to use Gerhardt's ability on that turn. Otherwise, we would have stolen him and would have gotten a ton of value out of that. Alright, Priscilla, healing. I mean, we have obviously damaged their cards, so there is something to be said for that. We are tied for the highest... No, we have the highest powered unit. Okay, so definitely not using Curse of Corruption. Dire Bear... well, at this point, we have 2 cards to their 1. We were already in the lead, and so even if things got a little bit rough, we still pull off the win, because they'll forfeit. So there's a look at a Nilfgaard Enslave 8 Tactics deck with a new Patience is a Virtue seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below letting me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. And take a look at our Patience is a Virtue playlist to see previous decks that we've used in this event as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.